So recently I've been doing more no sleep and creepypasta content, and I wanted to change it up a little bit. I wanted to go ahead and try and write my own story, but with a little twist to it. I asked 3 of my friends for a character, a place, and a plot point. And these are the tools that they gave me. Now, the idea is that I would use these suggestions and craft a story around them. So that's exactly what I did. And this is what I came up with. Now, before we get too far into it, I gotta say I'm not a writer. I don't know much about writing or storytelling. I just know that I like good stories, so I gave it my best shot. So be nice to me. Also, trigger warning. Precognitions. Now, I'm not somebody who typically believes in the supernatural. I don't believe in horoscopes or psychics, but these past few nights, something unusual has been happening. My name is Earl. I work as nighttime security at my old high school. I've been doing it for the last couple of months, and up to this point, things have been normal. I'm just doing this until I become a full-time paramedic. Ever since high school, I've always felt the need to help people. Maybe if I had been a paramedic back then, well, maybe things would be different today. I'm doing classes during the day, and I've got this gig that I do at night. And this week is the first time it's ever happened. At night, I'm seeing things that haven't happened yet. Night 1. It started off as usual. I walked the campus, checked all the usual spots, the courtyard, the football field, the pool, and so on. Then I go to the security room and watch the cameras for a bit. Typically, I'm sitting on my phone watching videos or studying, and then I take my lunch break out of my car, and when I come back, I patrol the halls. Tonight, while patrolling, I heard voices. I'm the only one on campus, and I heard multiple voices coming from the sophomore hall. I rushed over as fast as I could. I've never had to kick anyone out before. I was shaking and my heart was racing so fast. The voices were getting louder. It was obvious there was some sort of fight happening, so I readied my security-issued mace. In a full sprint, I was yelling down the halls, but when I got to the sophomore hall, it was dead silent. Nobody around. I thought maybe they ran off. Maybe they were still here. So I rushed to the security room to check the cameras. I played back the footage up until I entered the hall, and there was no one there. The only audio I could hear was my own footsteps and hollering down the hall. I rewatched the footage over and over for the rest of my shift, and I could not make any sense of it. There was no one else in the building. Night 2. Tonight, I walked the campus much faster. I had to go check the tapes again, because I needed to make sense of what happened. I got to the security room and loaded up last night's footage. Again, nothing. I was certain that I was the only person in the whole building last night, and I was definitely certain that I heard fighting. Maybe I'm reading too far into it. I know lack of sleep can cause hallucinations or whatever, but it just felt so real. I had been thinking of any logical solution as to what had happened, and while I was pondering, I had left the footage fast-forwarding through the next day until something caught my eye. 2 students were in the middle of a circle made up of other students. They were fighting, right there in the middle of the sophomore hallway, right where I had heard the voices the night before. It's not a coincidence, right? This is too weird to just be dismissed as a one-off coincidence. Whatever it was only the beginning. After lunch, I walked the halls. I was way more alert than ever, even though nobody was around. I was checking every hallway as I passed, but nothing. No voices or anything. Just silence. But I stopped and listened harder. There was something. A faint sound coming from a nearby restroom. Somebody had left the water running, I went to check it out, and to my surprise, the restroom was a complete wreck. Some asshole teenagers had stuffed the sinks with paper towels and left the water running, and there was trash all over. The poor janitor was going to have his hands full tomorrow. Figured I'd at least get it started, so I went to fetch a mop and bucket. Kids can be the worst, I swear. I had definitely trashed a bathroom when I was younger. Hell, I'd even gotten into a few fights. But maybe this is my own form of payback, and karma's real after all. I got back to the restroom expecting water to be leaking into the hallway, but to my surprise it wasn't. There wasn't any water. The sinks were clean and there was no trash. It looked perfect. I ran to the next closest bathroom. Maybe I'd gotten confused, but it was the same. What the fuck is happening? Now I was getting kinda pissed off. I couldn't even check the cameras to see if someone had come cleaned it up while I was gone. I tried anyway, and sure enough, no one. Night 3. I checked the cameras, and this morning, sometime after lunch, the janitor had blocked the bathroom off to clean it. He looked as pissed as I did. This is no coincidence. I have no rational explanation for what is happening. I'm experiencing these things the night before they happen. I was thinking maybe this is some sort of prank. Anything to convince myself it was something other than what it actually was. I was pacing back and forth, completely neglecting my nightly duties as a security officer. I didn't even try to patrol the outside of the campus. Anyway, it was nearing lunch, so I was heading out to my car. That's when I heard it. The blood-curdling screams of a woman. My heart sank. This wasn't a hallucination, or a prank, or my own imagination. These were real screams, and they were coming from down the hall. I ran faster than ever, trying desperately to figure out the origin of these cries. I was sprinting through corridors looking down each hall trying to find anything. I heard cries coming from the room at the end of the arts hallway. I rushed to open the door, but it was locked. I banged on it, trying to get her to let me in. It was completely silent. I pled for her to open the door and assured her I was only trying to help. No response. There was nobody. At least, tonight, there was nobody. Night 4. I showed up to work early. I didn't even sleep today. All I could think about is that woman. The first thing I did was replay the footage of the hallway starting from last night. I watched the recording for hours and saw nothing. Nobody entered that room all day. Not a single person. No screams or anything. I was relieved, but was worried maybe this job was just getting to me. I went to check the door again. I almost felt sick as I approached it. I checked the handle and it was still locked. The window had been covered up by something, so I couldn't even see in. This was probably the only room in this hall with no windows. I needed to get in there. I figured I'd look for keys, so I checked the janitor's office. It was a mess and nothing seemed organized, so I started sifting through the mess on his desk. I'm sure he had like a key ring with a key to every room in this school, but I wasn't finding it. Most likely kept it with him, but I had to try. After about 10 minutes of searching, his phone rang. His phone. On his desk. It didn't stop. It didn't go to an answering machine. It just kept ringing. I was sweating, and my heart was pounding in my ears. I've never been so terrified to answer a phone before. I picked up the phone. "Hello?" I said reluctantly. Pause. The voice of a young man on the other side. "She's dead." Then they hung up. Night 5. Today I bought a set of cheap lockpicks. I watched a YouTube tutorial by a guy who barely spoke English on how to use them. Tonight, I was getting in that room. Didn't even bother to walk the campus or check the cameras. To be honest, I was scared of what I might see. The only thing I could think about all day was what was behind that door. Who was behind that door? I haven't been sleeping well. Sometimes I just replay the past few nights in my head. I witnessed 2 separate events the night before they happened. I was not going to let this last one come true. Deep down, I knew I had to figure it out tonight, or else it would be too late. I fumbled with these pics for a straight hour with no progress. I was watching every video I could find on lockpicking, but it felt like it was no use. And eventually the lockpicks broke. Defeated, I kicked the door and cursed at it. I failed. Something was going to happen to this girl, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. This time, I even have the advantage of knowing before it happens, but it still isn't enough. I'm not enough. With my forehead pressed against the wooden door, I could hear a faint rumble from the other side. Surprised, I turned my ear towards the room. The subtle idle of a car engine could be heard from within the room. I quickly ran to the cameras in the hopes of making sense of all this. While I was frantically rewinding the footage from today, I almost didn't notice the live footage of the parking lot outside the front entrance of the school. There was a car parked with its lights on, pointed directly at the front doors. I was frozen. Who could this even be, and why were they here? Nobody was getting out of the car, and it was too dark to see who it was. I finally worked up the nerve to investigate. The car was still there, surprisingly, but as I got closer, I realized nobody was in it. They just left it running. There is something hauntingly familiar about it. I don't remember where, but I've seen this car before. I go to reach in and turn the car off when I suddenly catch a glimpse of a teenage girl standing in the doorway of the school. Illuminated by the headlights, she turns and walks out of view. Without thinking twice, I run after her, calling out for her to stop. She was already at the end of the main corridor, making her way down the art hallway. I knew where she was going. This time, the door was slightly opened, with a soft red glow slipping through the crack. I swung the door open, revealing an old dark room used for photography. It looks as if nobody had used it in years. My girl is nowhere to be seen. There are pictures covering the walls, leaving almost no empty space. The photos are all different angles of a horrific car crash. I have a closer look and I feel my stomach turn. This is the car from outside. I know this car, and I can't believe I didn't recognize it immediately. I take a step back in terror as the memories all start to come back to me. From a small room off to the side, I hear the soft sniffles of someone crying. I investigate further to find a young girl, standing on an old chair with a rope in hand. She looks shocked to see me and turns away. "It's okay," I reassure her. "I can help you. Just let me get you down from there." She falls silent and softly whispers, "You can't save me." I reach out for her, but in the blink of an eye, she's gone. The picture, the car, all gone. Once more, I'm all alone in this school. Day 6. I didn't go home tonight. I sat up and waited for the principal to arrive. I explained everything that had been happening, at least the best that I could. He looked at me like you would expect him to. He didn't say it, but I could tell he thought I was on something. I looked awful because I haven't been sleeping. I was stuttering, trying to explain what was happening. Students started to fill the halls, and I was begging the principal to believe me. A girl was going to attempt to take her own life. He tells me to go home and get sleep, as if that's even an option at this point. This was going nowhere, and I needed to do something quick. I leave the office, glancing all the way down towards the art hallway. I see her, walking with her head down, her arms crossed as if she's trying to shrink down in size and become less noticeable. Without thinking, I call out to her and quickly make my way down the hall. She doesn't even turn around. Instead, she races into the room, locking the door behind her. I'm banging on the door, begging for her to open it. Please open the door. I can't let you do this. I'm shaking as I'm talking to her from behind the door. I know you feel like this is the only option, or that you might be completely alone, but you're not. There are people who care about you, and when you're gone, they will always wonder why, or what they could have done different to help. I know this because my best friend in high school took her own life. Drove her car off a cliff, leaving everyone who cared about her behind. And her pain didn't disappear with her. It moved to everyone around her. It infected her parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. It infected her teachers, people who wanted to be friends with her but never got to. People who used to be friends with her. It infected everyone who ever loved her. It infected me. Every day I wonder what I could have done to save her. If I could have at least just let her know how much she matters. And tell her that she isn't alone and that it will all be okay in the end. After a minute of silence, finally, the door opens.